For this lesson, we are actually going to be talking about the central idea and theme. So remember, the central idea is the same thing as the main idea. And so basically, it's a quick summary of the most important events in the text. Now, this is not the same thing as a summary, and it's not the same thing as the theme. Okay, so your summary is all the events, the main events that are happening in the story, right? So you're telling the whole story. But the central idea is just that main overall idea of what the story is about, okay? Now your theme, on the other hand, is the lesson or the message that the story implies. And remember that that means that it's not usually explicitly stated in the text. We talked about explicit versus implicit. And explicit usually means that the author just writes it right there. I can copy and paste it right over. So for the theme, that's usually not the case. The author does not tell you what the theme is. They want you to use clues in the text and try to figure out what message are they trying to get across. And the nice thing about the theme is you could read the same story as someone else, and the theme you get out of it could be different from the next person. But you just need to be able to provide evidence to support that that's the theme of the story, because there can be several themes in a story, okay? So think creatively and consider the conflicts that are happening, the key events that are happening, and the characters. What are the characters doing and saying? What kind of growth maybe they had? How did they change? So think about those things when you're trying to think about the theme and try to figure it out. Now, one easy way to remember what theme is look at this word, the message. So like right here in the beginning, the M-E, this spells out the word theme so that you can remember that theme means the message. So think about that when you're trying to figure out, well, I don't remember what a central idea is. I don't remember what the theme is. You know, how is the central idea different from the theme? Just remember the message equals the theme, okay? And you can use the central idea to figure out your theme, and you should be using the central idea to figure out your theme. Well, let's watch a couple of videos, and we're going to watch a couple of videos on the main idea first, and then understanding the theme.
Hello readers, today I'm in this peaceful forest to tell you all about the skill of figuring out the main idea of a text.
Say, what's the big idea?
Yes, exactly. Wait, what? Oh, hello, squirrel.
You heard me, Big Legs. What's the big idea? With you tromping all over my patch of forest without so much as a how do you do?
I'm sorry. How do you do?
Hello.
How can I make it up to you?
Well, okay, I'm working on a school assignment.
Squirrels have school?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, go on.
So I got this newspaper article, and Mr. Badgerton says I have to draw out what the main idea is. How is that different from a summary?
Okay, a summary's all the key details of an article or a story, but a main idea is bigger than details. It's what those details add up to. A main idea is the key information that the author wants you to know after you've finished reading the text. So, for example, what's going on in your article?
It's about the creek in the forest, and how everyone wants to drink from it, but the otters want to swim in it, the bears want to fish in it, and the beavers want to build a dam in it and turn the whole thing into a pond.
Not as peaceful of a forest as I thought, huh?
Not so much, no.
What you just told me is a summary of the events of the news story. But the big idea there is that there's a conflict or fight over who has access to the creek.
So you just zipped all the supporting details out of my summary and made it more about the ideas?
Yeah, exactly. The main idea is that different animals want to use the creek.
Can you give me a more complicated example?
I would love to. Why don't we take a look at this text about brain growth? So here's a passage about training your brain. I'm going to read it, I'm going to make notes, and then I'm going to summarize each paragraph. And then I'll take all those summaries, put them together, and that'll help us come up with a main idea. So, here we go. Your brain gets stronger when you exercise it, just like muscles get stronger when you exercise them. Training your brain isn't always easy or comfortable. In fact, your brain uses up 20% of the oxygen and blood in your body because it works so hard. Okay, so your brain can get stronger, but it's not easy. Here are some examples of how your brain grows when you learn new things. Learning math strengthens the parts of the brain that are linked to memory, thought, and action. Imagine that. Remember when you first learned how to add and subtract? You got faster and faster with more practice. That's because your neurons, those are brain cells, your neurons were learning how to work with each other, and then your memory improved. But memory is useful for more than just math. I'm going to underline more than just math. That same part of your brain helps you remember basketball plays, dance routines, and even nice memories with your friends and family. So it's not just about math. Learning and practicing things helps your brain work faster. Learning or practicing anything, yes, anything, learning and practicing helps strengthen and change our brains. Your brain is changing and creating new neural pathways, which is just another way of saying brain connections, right? Neural is similar to neuron, so it's like having to do with brain cells. Your brain is changing and creating new neural pathways when you struggle to learn something new. So struggle is important. In other words, there's a lot happening in your brain when you're learning. All learning can build new information pathways, but learning things that are challenging for you can supercharge your brain growth. In other words, the more you're challenged, the faster you learn. So here are my paragraph summaries. Your brain can get stronger, but it's not easy. Learning and practicing helps your brain work faster, and the more you're challenged, the faster you learn. Putting those three things together, I would say that the main idea of this passage is that learning new information can strengthen your brain. Let's get a little thinky pinky back in there. What I did was I took something from each paragraph and found what they all had in common. There were some details, for example, about math or dance practice that are important, but aren't so important that they need to be included in the main idea. All of that can just sort of be pushed into this broader idea of learning new information makes your brain stronger, can strengthen your brain.
So how should I be thinking about main ideas?
All right. So are you familiar with the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees?
David, I live in a forest. Of course I'm familiar.
So it means, right, don't get so hung up on details that you can't see the big picture. The trees, one by one, are all part of the forest. They make up the forest, right? You with me?
Yes.
A summary of the forest is all the important details. There's a stream here, there's a birch tree here, a Douglas fir tree here, a red oak tree here, a rock there. But the main idea is this is a forest. All of those things together add up to the idea of a forest.
But do they add up to you doing my homework assignment?
They do not.
Aw, nuts.
You can learn anything. David out.
Hello, readers.
Today I want to talk about themes. A theme is an important idea that is woven throughout a story. It's not the plot or the summary, but something a little deeper. A theme links a big idea about our world with the action of a text. Sometimes a theme answers a question the story is trying to explore, like, what does it mean to be a family? Or, what are we afraid of? Themes will be statements that answer these questions, like, you don't have to be related to someone for them to be your family. Or, we are afraid of losing our individuality. Now, theme is different from the main idea of a story or its summary. The main idea is what the story is all about, and the summary is the events of the story. It's the plot, it's what happened. But the theme is a lesson or a message that you can take out of the story and apply to your own life. Themes are universal, that is to say, anyone can relate to them. So if I tell you a story about how I got food poisoning the one time I ate a sketchy roadside hot dog instead of packing my own lunch, the theme isn't avoid Sticky Pete's hot dogs on Route 91. The theme is it pays to be prepared. Because not everyone has a Sticky Pete's, but everyone can be prepared. Ugh, why did I eat it? Why is it green? A theme is similar to a moral, but a moral is more about a specific lesson it's trying to teach you. A theme could be a lesson, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes you can discover the theme by asking yourself some big questions. What did the characters learn? How did they grow and change? Why did characters act the way they acted? What's different at the end of the story? And what stays with you after the story is over? Let's go through a folktale and see if answering these questions helps us to uncover the theme. This is a story about Anansi the spider, a heroic trickster from West Africa. Anansi was clever, but he wished to be wise. Wiser than everyone, in fact. He decided that he'd take all the wisdom he could find, all the wisdom in the whole world, and gather it all inside a little clay pot. But he didn't like having it in the house, this pot of knowledge. "What if our kid knocks it over?" he asked his wife, Aso. "What if someone comes over in the night and steals it?" "Who's coming to steal your pot, Anansi?" she asked. "Nobody even knows you have it." "It's not safe," Anansi cried, and he decided to hide it. "I'm going out," he said. "Don't follow me." "Whatever," said Aso, who went back to doing something that was actually useful. Anansi wandered through the forest, lugging this enormous clay pot of wisdom, never aware that his little son Ntikuma was following close behind. "Not tall enough," said Anansi, looking at a cliff. "Not deep enough," he said, frowning at a canyon. "Aha!" said Anansi, when he came to the prickly thorn tree at the edge of the forest, near a little stream. "Now this will do just fine." Anansi had many legs, and he was very strong, but even he could not climb the tree and carry the pot of knowledge at the same time. He scrabbled up the tree, then slid back down again. He wiggled up the tree, then slid back down again. He clambered up the tree. "Hey, Dad," Anansi's son called out. "What? What? I said nobody follow me. What are you doing here?" Anansi cried. "You should tie the pot to your back, Dad. Then you can use all your legs to climb the tree." He was right, but it didn't matter to Anansi. "I'll teach you to give me advice, you little miscreant," Anansi yelled, shaking his fist. The same fist that held the handle to the pot full of wisdom. It went sailing into the air as time seemed to slow down. "Oh no," said Anansi. "Oh no," said Anansi's little son. And the pot smashed open right there in the stream, carrying all of Anansi's carefully gathered up knowledge into the ocean, sending it out to the whole world once again. "You are in so much trouble, Ntikuma," Anansi said, clambering back down the tree, and then he said, "Ow, ow, ow," because in his haste he had poked himself on the thorns of the tree. His son took off running for home, and Anansi raced after him, and as they ran, it began to rain. And as the rain came down, Anansi stopped running and began to walk and think. Ntikuma's plan would have worked after all. When he at last caught up with Ntikuma, he apologized for losing his temper. "What was the use of all that wisdom if I can still be outsmarted by my little son?" he said. The two of them embraced. And because of Ntikuma's timely interruption, a little bit of Anansi's knowledge lives in us all today. So, our questions checklist. What did the characters learn? Well, Anansi learned that even if he had all the wisdom in the world, a child could still have a better idea than him. How did the characters grow and change? Anansi apologized for losing his temper and realized that he wasn't the only person with good ideas. Why did characters act the way they acted? I think Anansi was greedy. Why else would he want to have all the wisdom in the world and not share it with anybody else? And what's different at the end of the story? At the end of the story, everybody gets a little bit from the pot of wisdom. It flows out into the ocean and gets sent to everybody. And Anansi realized that keeping all the wisdom to himself still didn't make him the wisest all the time. Finally, what stays with you after the story is over? The fact that all of us, you, me, your Aunt Matilda, all of us have a little bit of Anansi's wisdom inside of us. So a theme of this story could be, anyone can have a good idea, or wisdom is inside all of us. What theme would you give this story? Discuss it with your friends, your classmates, your family, and let us know. The theme of all of my videos is and shall forever be that you can learn anything. David out.